Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English in Moments. I'm Elena, your host for today's lesson. Let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're lost on your English learning journey? One day you feel confident, forming sentences with ease, and the next, you're searching for a simple word that just won't come. You might be stuck in that frustrating intermediate plateau, able to communicate but not with the power and confidence you dream of. Or perhaps you're just starting out, unsure of the very first steps to take. It's like trying to navigate a new city without a map. Well, what if I told you that in this session, we are going to draw that map for you together? Today, we are going to do something truly transformative. We will uncover your real English level, not with a boring, stressful exam, but through a relaxed, guided conversation. Think of me as your personal English coach sitting right here with you. I'm going to ask you questions. We'll practice real situations, and we'll explore your skills in a way that feels natural and supportive. By the end of our time together, the fog will clear. You will not get a simple label like beginner or advanced, but something far more valuable, a crystal clear understanding of your unique strengths and the exact areas you can focus on to make the fastest possible progress. This isn't a test to be passed or failed. It's an active training session and a journey of discovery. You don't need a pen, you don't need paper, and you certainly don't need any pressure. All you need is an open mind and the willingness to speak even if you make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are welcome here. They are the signposts that show us the way forward. This is your chance to sharpen your speaking, listening, and thinking skills, all while getting the clarity you've been searching for. So find a comfortable spot, take a deep breath, and let go of any fear of judgment. Are you ready to stop guessing and start knowing? Are you ready to unlock the next stage of your English fluency? Let's begin. Let's get started with the first stage of our English level test. I want you to imagine we are having a real, engaging conversation. I'll ask you some simple questions, and your job is to answer out loud, just as if we were speaking face to face. The goal here is not perfection, but natural expression. Let the words flow. Let's begin with something very easy. Can you tell me your name and the city you live in? For example, you could say, "My name is Elena and I live in Toronto." Now take a moment and introduce yourself. Speak with a clear and gentle voice. Excellent. Now let's add another layer. Try to answer this question. What do you do for a living, or what are you studying? For instance, you might say, "I work as a graphic designer," or "I am a university student studying history." This is a fundamental part of any introduction, so practicing it helps you make a great first impression. Take a moment to form your sentence and say it out loud now. Wonderful. Now let's talk about your daily life. Try to answer this question. What do you usually do in the evening to relax? Think about your typical routine after work or study. You might say, "In the evening, I usually read a book. I listen to music and I cook dinner." I want you to try speaking in full, complete sentences. Don't just say read, listen. Instead, build the sentence. I read a book. I listened to music. I cook dinner. Using full sentences like this is crucial because it builds the grammatical foundation for more complex thoughts later on. It's like building the strong walls of a house before you add the roof. Let's practice some examples together. Repeat after me. I usually watch a movie in the evening. I often call my family to chat. I prepare my things for the next day. Say those sentences out loud with me, feeling the rhythm of the words. Now let's make it a little more challenging. Instead of talking about your usual routine, let's talk about the past. Answer this question: what did you do last weekend? For example, last weekend I visited a museum. I met my friends for lunch and then I went shopping. Did you hear the change in the verbs? When we talk about a completed pastime like last weekend, we use the past tense. Visit becomes visited. Meet becomes met. Go becomes went. These small but critical changes are key indicators of your grammar level. Repeat these past tense forms with me slowly. Last weekend, I visited my relatives. Last weekend, I met a new person. Last weekend, I went to a concert. Now let's move to a short listening practice. I will say a few sentences and I want you to listen very carefully and then try to repeat them exactly as you hear them. Ready? The weather is lovely today. My favorite season is autumn. Last year, I traveled to the mountains for a vacation. Try to repeat them now, paying attention to the melody of the sentences. Good. Now I'll ask you a question. What kind of music do you like to listen to? Think about your answer. If you can answer with just one word like pop or rock, that's a good start, but it shows a more basic level. If you can form a full sentence such as, I like to listen to pop music, and my favorite artist is Taylor Swift, that shows you're comfortably at an intermediate level. If you can expand even more, like I'm a big fan of various music genres, but I particularly enjoy classical music because it helps me focus when I'm working. I find it very calming and inspirational. Then you are demonstrating advanced fluency and vocabulary. So try now. Speak your answer in a full, detailed sentence. I enjoy listening to, and continue with your own thoughts. Now let's explore your vocabulary level. Your vocabulary is like your toolkit for communication. The more tools you have, the more you can build and express. We'll start with simple, common words and gradually move to more sophisticated ones. Let's begin with an easy warm-up. Can you name 5 different animals in English? For example, lion, elephant, monkey, dog, cat. Say them with me slowly. Lion, elephant, monkey, dog, cat. Now on your own, think of 2 more animals. Speak their names out loud, even if the pronunciation feels tricky. Good. Now let's try with modes of transportation. Repeat after me. Car, bus, train, bicycle, airplane. Can you add 3 more ways to travel? Try to say them without my help. Perhaps a motorcycle, a ship, or a taxi. If you can easily list more items in a category, it shows you have a broad and accessible vocabulary. Let's try another category, items in an office. Repeat these words after me. Computer, desk, chair, printer, telephone. Now try to name 3 more things you might find in a workspace, for example, a notebook, a stapler, or a calendar. This ability to recall words related to a specific environment is a very practical skill. Now let's make it more challenging by moving to abstract concepts like personality traits. Repeat after me. Honest, kind, funny, patient, creative, good. Now try to use one of these words to describe someone you know. For example, my best friend is very funny. He always makes me laugh. Or, my mother is a very patient person, especially when she is teaching. Take a moment to practice. To check your vocabulary level more deeply, I'll ask you this question. What is a quality you admire in other people? If you say, I like nice people, that's a good, simple answer. If you can say, I admire honesty in people because trust is important to me, that's a solid, intermediate response. If you can elaborate further, like, one quality I truly admire in others is resilience, the ability to overcome challenges and not give up. I find it incredibly inspiring. Then that shows a more advanced and nuanced vocabulary. Try now. Say your answer out loud. Let's practice with one more category: verbs related to communication. Repeat after me slowly. Talk, speak, explain, describe, suggest. Now for a challenge. Use at least 3 of these words in a short paragraph. For example, yesterday I had to talk to my manager. I tried to speak clearly and explain the problem. Then I had to describe the situation to my team and suggest a solution. Try making your own sentences out loud. Now I want you to listen to and repeat a short dialogue. Imagine 2 colleagues discussing a project. Person A says, Hi, Tom, do you have a minute to discuss the project report? Person B replies, Of course, Sarah. I just finished my part. I can email it to you. Person A says, That would be great. Thank you so much. Repeat these lines with me one by one. Speak them slowly first, then try again with a more natural conversational pace. This kind of dialogue tests your ability to understand and reproduce natural conversational flow. If you can only repeat a few key words, you might be in the beginner phase. If you can repeat the entire conversation with good rhythm, you are likely intermediate. If you can repeat it and even imagine how you would continue the conversation, then you are showing signs of advanced fluency. Let's practice that. I'll ask, What did you do after work yesterday? At the beginner level, you might say, I cooked dinner. At the intermediate level, you could say, After work, I cooked dinner and watched a movie. At the advanced level, you could say, After a long day at work yesterday, I went home and cooked a healthy dinner. Then I relaxed on the sofa and watched a fascinating documentary about space. Now it's your turn. Try to create your own detailed answer. Now let's test your grammar level. Grammar is the architecture of your sentences, giving them structure and meaning. Don't worry, we won't get lost in complex rules. Instead, we'll explore grammar through natural questions and answers, which is the best way to see your skills in action. Let's start with the present tense. Listen carefully. I drink coffee every morning. He plays the guitar in a band. They live in a small apartment. Repeat these sentences after me. This is the simple present tense used for habits and facts. Oh, it's one of the first things beginners learn. Now try to make your own sentence about a habit you have. For example, I read for an hour before sleeping. Say your sentence now. Good. Now let's explore another present tense, the present continuous, for actions happening right now. Listen carefully. I am learning English at this moment. She is working on an important project. They are having a conversation. Notice the structure. Am, is, or are, plus a verb ending in apostropheing. Repeat these sentences. Now answer this question using the present continuous. What is your family doing right now? You could say, My mother is cooking in the kitchen, or My brother is listening to music. Try it. Now let's switch to the past tense. Listen carefully. I studied for my exam all night. She bought a new dress last week. We saw a beautiful sunset yesterday. Did you notice the verb changes? Study becomes studied. Buy becomes bought. See becomes saw. Repeat these sentences with me slowly. Now create your own sentence in the simple past. For example, yesterday I called my best friend. Go ahead, your turn. Let's add the past continuous. This describes an action that was in progress at a specific time in the past. It provides a background scene. For example, last night at 9 p.m., I was watching a documentary. He was driving home when he heard the news. Repeat those with me. Now answer this question. What were you doing 3 hours ago? Try to form a full sentence. Now let's go one step higher to the present perfect tense. This tense connects the past with the present. Listen carefully. I have visited that museum 3 times. He has worked as a teacher for a decade. They have never eaten sushi before. Notice we use have or has plus the past participle. This is for life experiences or actions with a result in the present. Repeat these sentences with me. Now try your own. For example, I have read that book twice. Say it slowly and clearly. Now let's check fluency with a question using this tense. I'll ask you, have you ever learned to play a musical instrument? At the beginner level, a simple yes or no is common. At the intermediate level, you could say, yes, I have learned to play the piano. At the advanced level, you could expand. Yes, I've learned to play the piano, although I'm a bit rusty. I took lessons for a few years when I was younger. Take a moment and answer this question for yourself. Good. Now let's challenge your grammar with a future tense. Repeat after me. I will call you later today. She will travel to Japan next year. They will probably arrive soon. Say them with me. Now try your own future tense sentence with will, perhaps about a promise or a prediction. For example, I will finish this lesson today. To make it more complex, let's use going to for plans. Listen carefully. I am going to start a new fitness routine next week. He is going to propose to his girlfriend. We are going to redecorate our living room. Notice the pattern. Repeat those sentences after me. Now create your own sentence with going to about a plan you have. Let's connect this in a mini conversation. I'll ask you, what are you going to do this evening? At the beginner level, you might say, I watch TV. At intermediate, I am going to cook dinner for my family. At advanced, this evening I'm going to cook a special dinner for my family, and then we're going to watch a new movie that just came out. Try your version now. Another grammar test is forming questions correctly. Beginners often make mistakes here. For example, a beginner might say, she is from Spain. The correct way is she from Spain? Or for the past tense, when you arrived? Should be, when did you arrive? Repeat these correct forms with me slowly. Is she from Spain? When did you arrive? Now let's practice with WH questions. Listen carefully. Where did you grow up? What kind of books do you enjoy reading? Why are you learning English? Repeat each question with me, then try to answer them in a full, detailed sentence. For example, I grew up in a small town by the sea. I enjoy reading mystery novels. I am learning English to communicate with people from other cultures. Try to create your own answers now. To check your level more deeply, let's move to conditionals. First, the first conditional for real future possibilities. Listen. If I finish my work early, I will go for a walk. Repeat that. Now try your own sentence starting with, if I save enough money. Now the second conditional for hypothetical or imaginary situations. Listen carefully. If I had a superpower, I would choose to fly. Repeat with me. If I had a superpower, I would choose to fly. Now try your own. For example, if I could meet any historical figure, I would want to meet Leonardo da Vinci. Being able to create sentences like this shows strong intermediate or advanced control. Finally, the advanced third conditional for imagining a different past with a different result. Listen, if I had checked the weather forecast, I would have taken an umbrella. It's complex, so let's say it again slowly. If you can understand and use this structure, your grammar is at a very high level. Now let's focus on listening comprehension. This is a critical skill because real-life spoken English is often fast and full of new vocabulary. I'll guide you step by step. First, I'll read a very short passage. Listen carefully, and then I'll ask you some simple questions. Ready? David went to the supermarket this afternoon. He needed to buy some milk, bread, and eggs. He paid with his credit card and then walked back home. Now, here are the questions. Answer them out loud. Where did David go this afternoon? What 3 things did he need to buy? How did he pay? If you answered he went to the supermarket, he bought milk, bread, and eggs, and he paid by credit card, then you understood perfectly. This is a beginner-level listening passage. Let's try a slightly longer intermediate passage now. Listen carefully. Maria's planning a birthday party for her friend Leo. She has already sent out the invitations to all their friends. For the party, she is going to bake a chocolate cake and order some pizza. She hopes the weather will be nice so they can celebrate in the garden. Now I'll ask you, who is the party for? What has Maria already done? What food is she preparing for the party? Where does she hope to have the celebration? Try to answer out loud. If you can answer with full sentences like, the party is for her friend Leo. She has already sent the invitations. She is going to have cake and pizza. She wants to celebrate in the garden. Then you have a strong intermediate listening ability. Now let's try an advanced listening passage. This one will be longer and include more complex ideas and vocabulary. Listen carefully. Dr. Alistair Finch has dedicated his career to studying the long-term effects of climate change on marine ecosystems. His research initially faced skepticism from the scientific community, as his methods were unconventional. However, after years of persistent data collection in the Arctic, his findings, which demonstrated a dramatic decline in plankton populations, have become widely accepted. He now argues that immediate international cooperation is essential to prevent irreversible damage to our oceans. Here are the questions. What is Dr. Finch's field of study? What was the initial reaction to his research? Where did he conduct his data collection? What was the main finding of his research? What does he argue is necessary now? Take a moment to answer these questions out loud. If you can recall specific details like he studies the effects of climate change on marine ecosystems, or he argues for immediate international cooperation, then you are demonstrating advanced comprehension skills. Now let's combine listening with speaking practice. I'll read a short dialogue and I want you to repeat each line after me. Imagine you're at a hotel reception. A. Good morning. I'd like to check out, please. B. Certainly. What was your room number? A. It was room 402. Here's the key card. B. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Repeat the dialogue with me slowly, line by line. Now let's try it again faster, more naturally, as if you were in that situation. Good. Now imagine you are person A, the guest, and say the first line on your own. Then imagine you are person B, the receptionist, and give the answer. Switching roles like this is a fantastic way to test both your listening and speaking flexibility. Another powerful practice for listening is shadowing. I'll say a sentence and you repeat it immediately after me, trying to copy my intonation and rhythm. Ready? I think it's important to practice a little bit every day. Say it. My favorite thing to do on a rainy day is read a good book. Say it. Traveling to new places can teach you so much about the world. Say it. If you can shadow these sentences smoothly without long pauses, it shows that your brain is processing and producing spoken English effectively, a hallmark of advancing fluency. Vocabulary is not just about memorizing word lists. It's about understanding how to use words correctly and naturally in context. To test your level, we'll begin with a simple word and see how deeply you can use it. Let's start with a warm-up. I'll give you a word, and you try to use it in a full sentence. The first word is friend. At a beginner level, you might say, I have a friend. At an intermediate level, you could say, my best friend lives in another country. At an advanced level, you might say, a true friend is someone who supports you through both good times and bad. Now, try to create your own sentence with the word friend. Okay, let's try another one. The word is work. A beginner might say, I work. A better sentence would be, I work in an office. At an intermediate level, you could say, I have to work late tonight to finish a report. At an advanced level, you might say, I find my work incredibly fulfilling because it allows me to solve complex problems and collaborate with talented people. Try saying your own sentence now. Now let's test your vocabulary with synonyms. Words that have similar meanings. Listen carefully. The word is good. A synonym is nice. Another is great. More advanced synonyms might be excellent, fantastic, or superb. Beginners often rely only on good. Intermediate learners might use nice or great. Advanced learners have a wider range, choosing words like excellent or fantastic to be more precise. Repeat them after me slowly. Good, nice, great, excellent, fantastic, superb. Now try to make a sentence with one of the more advanced words. Let's try another word. Important. A beginner says, English is important. An intermediate learner might say, this is a very important meeting. An advanced learner could say, this is a crucial meeting, or this is a vital project for our company's future. Repeat these synonyms with me. Important, crucial, vital, essential. Now try to use one in your own sentence. Now let's practice fluency with a quick response activity. I'll ask you a question, and I want you to answer as quickly as you can without overthinking it. Just speak. Ready? What is your favorite color? Answer quickly. Good. What did you eat for breakfast this morning? Answer quickly. Nice. What is something that makes you happy? Answer quickly. Excellent. This exercise trains your brain to access English words and phrases directly, without the slow process of translating from your native language. Let's make it a little harder. I'll ask you to describe something in detail. For example, describe your favorite piece of clothing. At a beginner level, you might say, I have a blue shirt. I like it. At an intermediate level, you could say, My favorite piece of clothing is a blue shirt. It's very comfortable and made of cotton. At an advanced level, you might say, my favorite piece of clothing is a dark blue linen shirt. It's incredibly comfortable, especially in the summer, and I love it because it's versatile. I can wear it casually or for a more formal occasion. Now, try to describe your own favorite item of clothing out loud. Another fluency practice is storytelling. I'll give you a topic, and you try to tell a short story. Here's the topic: a time you learned something new. At a beginner level, you might say, I learned guitar. It was hard. At an intermediate level, you could say, I learned to play the guitar last year. I took lessons and practiced every day. At an advanced level, you might say, last year I decided to learn how to play the guitar. At first, it was incredibly challenging and my fingers hurt, but I stuck with it and practiced every day. Now I can play a few of my favorite songs, and it's a wonderfully rewarding feeling. Now try to tell your own story about learning something new. Finally, let's practice shadowing again with longer, more complex sentences for fluency. Repeat after me. I've come to believe that the key to learning a language is consistency rather than intensity. Again, when I meet someone from a different culture, I'm always fascinated to hear about their perspectives and traditions. One more. Although I sometimes get nervous speaking in front of a group, I know it's a valuable skill that I want to improve. These shadowing practices are like a workout for your mouth and your brain, building the muscle memory needed for smooth, natural speech. One of the most revealing ways to measure your English level is to place yourself in everyday situations and observe how well you can navigate them. Let's start with a common scenario: asking for help at a tourist information center. At a basic level, a learner might just say, map, please, or where is museum? This gets the point across, but it's very direct. At an intermediate level, a learner could say, excuse me, could I have a map of the city, please? Or can you tell me how to get to the art museum? This is polite and grammatically correct. At an advanced level, a learner might say, excuse me, I'm new in town and was hoping you could give me some recommendations. I'm particularly interested in historical sites. Could you mark a few on this map for me? The difference lies in the ability to explain the context, use more sophisticated phrasing, and ask follow-up questions. You can practice now by imagining you are in a new city and speaking out loud what you would ask. Let's try another real-life example: buying a train ticket. At a beginner level, someone might say, one ticket, London. This is understandable but incomplete. At an intermediate level, they could say, I would like to buy a ticket to London, please. This is clear and polite. At an advanced level, they might say, hello, I'd like to buy a one-way ticket to London for this afternoon, please. Could you tell me if there's a direct train and what time the next one leaves? Again, you see the jump in fluency, detail, and the ability to handle a multi-step transaction. To practice, imagine you are at a train station now. Try to form a complete sentence as if you were buying a ticket to a city you know. Now imagine you need to explain a technical problem. Let's say your internet isn't working and you have to call customer support. At a basic level, the conversation might be, internet no work. At an intermediate level, it could expand to, hello, my internet is not working. I have tried restarting the modem. At an advanced level, it might sound like, Hello, I'm calling because my internet connection seems to be down. I've already tried rebooting the router, but the light is still blinking red. Could you please check if there's an outage in my area? The advanced version uses specific vocabulary, rebooting the router, outage, and clearly explains the steps already taken. Think of a common technical problem you've had and try to explain it out loud in English. Another useful practice is describing your health to a pharmacist. A beginner may say, I have cough. The meaning is clear, but the grammar is missing. At an intermediate level, the sentence might sound like, I have a bad cough and a sore throat. At an advanced level, a learner could say, I've had a persistent dry cough for a few days, and my throat feels very scratchy. Can you recommend something to help with these symptoms? Adding descriptive adjectives like persistent and scratchy and using polite functional language shows stronger control of English. Try describing a simple health issue out loud now. Finally, think about giving someone a compliment. A beginner might just say, nice shirt. At an intermediate level, the sentence could be, I like your shirt. The color is very nice. At an advanced level, it may become, that's a beautiful shirt you're wearing. The color really suits you. The difference is not just vocabulary, but the ability to sound more natural and sincere. Practicing these small social interactions helps build the confidence to use English in all aspects of your life. Storytelling is one of the most powerful indicators of English fluency. The ability to narrate an event means you can organize your thoughts, use tenses correctly, and engage a listener. Let's begin with a simple exercise. Imagine you are telling a short story about a favorite childhood memory. At a beginner level, you might say, I play in park. I was happy. This is understandable, but it lacks detail and correct grammar. At an intermediate level, the same story could be, I remember when I was a child, I used to play in the park with my friends every day after school. We had a lot of fun. This shows better use of past tenses and more complete sentences. At an advanced level, you could say, one of my fondest childhood memories is spending long summer afternoons playing in the park behind my house. I remember the feeling of the sun on my skin and the sound of my friends laughing as we played in the swings until it got dark. It was such a simple and joyful time. The difference is in the sensory details, emotional language, and the smooth flow of the narrative. You can try this now by telling your own favorite childhood memory out loud. Another way to test your grammar in storytelling is to talk about your future ambitions. Imagine you are sharing your dream vacation plan. At a beginner level, you might say, I want to go to Italy. At an intermediate level, you could say, for my dream vacation, I would like to go to Italy to see the historical sites. At an advanced level, you could say, my dream vacation would be a 2-week trip through the Italian countryside. I would love to rent a small car and explore charming villages, sample the local food and wine, and just immerse myself in the culture. I think it would be an unforgettable experience. The advanced version paints a picture, showing a rich vocabulary and a clear structure. Try to describe your own dream vacation in as much detail as possible. Let's make it more challenging with conditionals in a story. These sentences show your ability to connect possibilities and imagination. A beginner might not use them and just say, I want to be a doctor. I help people. At an intermediate level, it could be, if I become a doctor, I will help people who are sick. At an advanced level, you might say, if I had the opportunity to choose any profession, I think I would become a doctor. I would find it incredibly rewarding to use my skills to help people and make a real difference in their lives, even though I know it would be a very challenging path. Adding phrases like, I would find it incredibly rewarding makes the story more complex and advanced. Try to create your own conditional sentence now, starting with, if I could have any job, and see how much detail you can add. Now let's test your speaking ability with a descriptive story. Imagine you are describing your favorite movie. At a beginner level, the description may be, I like Titanic. It is sad. At an intermediate level, you could say, my favorite movie is Titanic. It's a romance and a drama about a ship. The ending is very sad. At an advanced level, it may become, my all-time favorite movie is Titanic. It's an epic romance set against the backdrop of a historical tragedy. The cinematography is stunning, the acting is brilliant, and the story is so emotionally powerful that it stays with you long after you've seen it. The more you can describe not just the plot, but your feelings and opinions about it, the higher your level shows. Take a moment to choose a movie you love and describe it out loud with as much detail as you can. Finally, let's practice a storytelling challenge using the past, present, and future together. Try to imagine you are talking about your language learning journey. At a beginner level, you might say, I study English. It is hard. At an intermediate level, it could be, I started studying English a year ago. It was difficult at first, but now it is getting easier. At an advanced level, you could say, I began studying English a couple of years ago, and I remember feeling overwhelmed by all the grammar rules. Right now, I feel much more confident, though I know I still have a lot to learn, especially with my pronunciation. In the future, I hope to become fluent enough to use English professionally in my career. Using 3 different tenses in one coherent story shows high fluency. You can try the same now with your own story about learning English. One of the most practical ways to check your English level is to recognize common mistakes and know how to correct them. Beginners often make errors in fundamental grammar, such as subject-verb agreement. For example, a beginner might say, my friend lives in London. The correct sentence is, my friend lives in London. Remember to add the apostrophe S for verbs with he, she, or it in the present simple. If you consistently remember this rule, you are moving beyond the beginner level. Another very common mistake is with prepositions of time, like in, on, and at. A beginner might say, I will see you in Friday. The correct sentence is, I will see you on Friday. We use on for days and dates. At intermediate and advanced levels, you become much more comfortable with these small but tricky words. To test yourself, try making 3 sentences using in, on, and at for time. For example, my birthday is in October. The meeting is on Monday. Let's meet at 6 p.m. If you can use these correctly without thinking, your level is definitely rising. Let's discuss another common mistake area, countable and uncountable nouns. A beginner might say, can you give me an advice? The word advice is uncountable, so the correct form is, can you give me some advice? Or a piece of advice. The same is true for words like information, furniture, and luggage. At an advanced level, you can navigate these distinctions easily. Another mistake is about confusing irregular past tense verbs. Beginners often say, "Yesterday, I eat a big pizza." The correct version is, "Yesterday, I ate a big pizza." At an intermediate level, you have memorized most common irregular verbs and can use them naturally. I wrote an email. I took the bus. I felt tired. At an advanced level, you not only use the correct form, but also weave them into complex narratives. Yesterday, I wrote a long email to my client, then took the bus downtown and met my friend for coffee. Try now to say 3 sentences about things you did last week, using irregular past tense verbs. Let's look at another mistake with prepositions of place. A beginner might say, "I am at home for all situations." But for being inside a country or city, we say, "I am in France" or "I am in Paris." Getting these small prepositions right makes your English sound much more natural. Try to practice by making sentences like, "I am interested in history." She is allergic to nuts. He is responsible for the project. If you can do this naturally, you are making great progress. Pronunciation can also reveal your level. Beginners sometimes struggle with silent letters, saying "list 10" instead of "listen" or "you write" instead of "write." Intermediate learners have learned many of these rules. Advanced learners usually have very few pronunciation issues that affect understanding. You can test yourself by reading aloud words with silent letters like knowledge, island, and doubt. If you can say them smoothly, you are moving toward higher fluency. Now, let's test yourself with sentences that contain tricky grammar. Repeat these after me and try to say them correctly. I wish I had more free time. He is used to working long hours. There are fewer people here than I expected. She suggested that we go to the cinema. Each of these sentences tests a specific grammar point that learners often find difficult. If you can say them correctly and understand why they are correct, you are definitely above the beginner level. To practice correction, I will give you some incorrect sentences, and your job is to say the corrected version out loud. Ready? Here is the first one. She is more taller than her brother. Say the correct version. Yes, it should be. She is taller than her brother. Now another. I look forward to meet you. The correct version is, I look forward to meeting you. Another one. There is many cars on the street. The correct version is, there are many cars on the street. Actively correcting mistakes like these is a simple but incredibly effective way to solidify your understanding of English grammar. At the advanced level, mistakes are often more subtle, related to style or natural word choice. For example, a learner might say, "I made a party for my friend." The more natural version is, "I threw a party for my friend," or "I had a party for my friend." An advanced learner would instinctively choose the more natural collocation. The ability to sound less like a textbook and more like a native speaker is a sign of true mastery. Fluency is not just about being correct, it's about how smoothly, confidently, and naturally you can express your thoughts without disruptive pauses. One way to check your fluency is to see how you handle a simple question. For example, if I ask, "What do you like to do in your free time?" And you can answer immediately and in detail, that shows fluency. A less fluent speaker might pause for a long time, mentally translating from their native language. A fluent learner answers directly in English. In my free time, I really enjoy hiking. I love being outdoors in nature. It helps me clear my head. Practicing these quick responses builds mental agility. Let's try a fluency challenge. I will give you a simple word, and your task is to speak about it continuously for 30 seconds without stopping. The word is family. You could say, my family is very important to me. I have one brother and one sister. We live in different cities, but we talk on the phone every week. I love spending time with them during the holidays. That's about 20 seconds of continuous speech. If you can do this with different words like technology, health, or books, you are training your brain to think on its feet in English. Another way to test fluency is with storytelling speed. Take a simple topic like my morning routine. A basic response might be, I wake up. I brush my teeth. I eat breakfast. An intermediate response would add more detail and flow. In the morning, I usually wake up around 7 a.m. The first thing I do is brush my teeth, and then I go to the kitchen to make some coffee and breakfast. An advanced fluent response would be even more descriptive and natural. My morning routine is pretty consistent. I'm an early riser, so I'm usually up by 6:30 a.m. I'll spend a few minutes meditating to start the day with a clear mind. Then I'll head to the kitchen to make a strong cup of coffee and a healthy breakfast while listening to the news. Do you see how the advanced version tells a more complete story? Shadowing is also a powerful tool for fluency. In shadowing, you listen and repeat simultaneously, matching the speaker's rhythm and intonation. Let's try it. Say this out loud with me. I've been trying to read more books in English to expand my vocabulary. Repeat it again, a bit faster. Another one. Even though it can be challenging, I find the process of learning a new language very rewarding. One more. Every conversation I have in English helps me become a little more confident and a little more fluent. If you can keep up with the pace of shadowing, it means your listening and speaking skills are strongly synchronized. Another fluency test is paraphrasing, saying the same idea in different words. This shows flexibility. For example, if the sentence is, this project is very difficult, you could paraphrase it as, this project is quite challenging, or I'm finding this project to be very demanding. A beginner might only be able to repeat the original words, but an advanced learner can express the idea in several ways. Let's practice. The sentence is, I am very busy this week. You could change it to, I have a lot on my plate this week, or my schedule is completely packed this week. The ability to paraphrase is a sign of a rich and flexible vocabulary. Finally, let's test your use of natural expressions. Natural English is full of idioms and phrasal verbs. For example, a beginner might say, I will think about your suggestion. A more natural, fluent speaker might say, I will sleep on it. This small change shows a deeper comfort with the language. Another example, a beginner might say, it is raining very hard. A more natural way is, it's raining cats and dogs. Or instead of saying, I am very happy, an advanced learner might say, I'm on cloud 9. These expressions make you sound less like a student and more like a fluent speaker. Try practicing them by repeating, I'll sleep on it. It's raining cats and dogs. I'm on cloud 9. Integrating these into your speech will make your English sound much more authentic. Real-life role-play is a fantastic way to discover your practical fluency because it simulates situations you will actually encounter. Imagine, for example, that you are returning a faulty product to a store. A beginner might just say, "This broken." An intermediate learner could say, "Excuse me, I would like to return this." It doesn't work. An advanced learner, however, might say, "Excuse me, I bought this kettle here last week, but I'm afraid it's faulty. I've tried it several times, but it won't turn on. I have the receipt right here. Could I get a refund, please?" The advanced version provides context, explains the problem clearly, and states the desired outcome, showing confidence in handling a transactional conversation. You can practice this by imagining you need to return something and speaking aloud exactly what you would say. Another useful situation is a job interview. Beginners often give very short answers like, "Yes, I am hard worker." At an intermediate level, you might say, "I am a hard worker. I am always on time and I finish my tasks." At an advanced level, you could say, "I would describe myself as a dedicated and proactive worker." For example, in my previous role, I noticed an inefficiency in our workflow, so I took the initiative to develop a new system that saved the team 5 hours a week. I'm always looking for ways to contribute and improve. The advanced version uses the STAR method, situation, task, action, result, to give a concrete, impressive example. To test your level, try speaking for 1 full minute about one of your strengths as if you were in an interview. Now think about being at a social gathering and trying to join a conversation. A beginner might stand silently or say very little. An intermediate learner might say, "That's interesting." An advanced learner could say, "Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear you talking about modern art. That's a topic I'm really passionate about. What's your opinion on the latest exhibition at the City Gallery?" The advanced speaker knows how to enter a conversation politely, show interest, and ask an open-ended question to keep the dialogue flowing. Let's imagine another daily life scenario. Making a complaint at a restaurant. A beginner may say, "Food cold." An intermediate learner might say, "Excuse me, my food is cold." An advanced learner could say, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but my steak is a little cold. Would it be possible to have it warmed up a bit?" Notice how the advanced version is more polite and specific, which is more likely to get a positive result. You can test your fluency by practicing similar polite complaints for other situations, like a noisy hotel room or an incorrect coffee order. Finally, let's test a situation that requires negotiation. Discussing plans with a friend. A beginner might say, "I want pizza." "You want movie." Problem. At an intermediate level, you might say, "I want to eat pizza, but you want to watch a movie. What should we do?" At an advanced level, you could say, "So I'm really in the mood for pizza tonight, but I know you wanted to catch that new movie. How about we grab a quick pizza first and then go to the later movie showing?" That way, we can do both. Fluency is about problem solving, suggesting compromises, and building a natural back and forth conversation. Practicing this out loud helps you prepare for the dynamic nature of real life interactions. Being able to maintain and extend a conversation is one of the ultimate signs of fluency. Beginners often give one-word answers, bringing the conversation to a halt. Intermediate learners can answer and maybe ask a simple question back. Advanced speakers, however, can truly weave a conversation, expanding on ideas, asking thoughtful follow-up questions, and connecting topics naturally. Let's look at this in an everyday situation, like talking about movies. At a beginner level, if asked, "Do you like movies?" A learner might say, yes. At an intermediate level, the answer could be, yes, I like action movies. At an advanced level, it might sound like, I'm a huge movie fan, actually. I enjoy a lot of genres, but I'm particularly drawn to science fiction because it explores such creative and thought provoking ideas. Have you seen any good science fiction films recently? This is how a simple yes can be transformed into a real conversation starter. Try to practice this by choosing a simple question and speaking about it for at least 1 minute without stopping. Another way to test your conversational level is to speak about your personal goals. A beginner might say, I want to learn English. An intermediate learner might say, my goal is to learn English so I can get a better job. An advanced learner could say, my main professional goal right now is to achieve fluency in English. I believe it will open up new career opportunities, allowing me to work with international teams and take on more challenging projects. Beyond my career, I'm also excited about how it will enable me to connect with people from all over the world. The advanced version connects the goal to a deeper purpose and shows a more sophisticated way of thinking and speaking. Practice by sharing one of your own goals out loud, explaining not just what it is, but why it's important to you. Now let's imagine a conversation about food and cooking. At a beginner level, a learner might say, I like to cook pasta. At an intermediate level, it could become, I enjoy cooking pasta. My favorite dish to make is spaghetti bolognese. At an advanced level, it may be, I'm quite passionate about cooking, especially Italian cuisine. I find the process of making fresh pasta from scratch to be very therapeutic. My signature dish is a spaghetti bolognese, but I have my own secret recipe for the sauce that has been passed down in my family. You can see how adding personal stories and specific details makes the conversation much more engaging. Try to recall a favorite dish of yours and describe it with as many details as possible. Advanced expression is also about sharing a nuanced opinion. For example, if someone asks, do you think technology is good or bad? A beginner may say, good. An intermediate learner might say, I think technology is good because it helps us. An advanced learner could say, that's a complex question. On one hand, technology has connected the world and given us access to incredible information. On the other hand, it has raised concerns about privacy and its impact on our social skills. I believe the key is to use it mindfully. Sharing both sides of an argument and providing a thoughtful conclusion makes your English sound much more intelligent and fluent. You can practice this by taking any opinion question, such as, is living in a big city better than living in the countryside? And answering with a balanced view. Another advanced skill is being able to compare and contrast effectively. For example, if I ask, what is the difference between reading a book and watching a movie? A beginner may say, book is words, movie is picture. An intermediate learner might say, when you read a book, you use your imagination more than when you watch a movie. An advanced learner could say, while both books and their movie adaptations can tell the same story, they offer fundamentally different experiences. Reading a book is a more active process that requires you to build the world in your own mind, which can be deeply personal. In contrast, a movie provides a more passive, visual interpretation, which can be powerful in its own way, but leaves less room for imagination. Being able to articulate such complex comparisons clearly shows high fluency. Try practicing now by comparing two things you know well, like two of your favorite hobbies or two places you have visited. Finally, let's look at how advanced learners keep a conversation going. They use techniques like asking follow up questions. For example, if someone says, I just got back from a trip to Spain, a beginner might say, nice. An intermediate learner could say, did you have a good time? An advanced learner, however, would expand naturally. Oh, Spain! That's amazing. I've always wanted to go. Which cities did you visit? What was the highlight of your trip? This is the difference between being a passive participant and an active driver of a conversation. Now that you've journeyed through all these exercises with me, you should have a much clearer and more honest understanding of where you stand with your English. If you found yourself mostly giving short, simple answers and struggling with the grammar, then you are likely in the beginner stage, and that is a wonderful place to start. It means you have the most exciting growth ahead of you. Your mission now is to build a strong foundation. Focus on learning the most common 500 English words and mastering the simple present and past tenses. Consistency is your best friend. If you are able to answer in full sentences, add some details, and use grammar correctly most of the time, then you are probably in the dynamic intermediate stage. This is a crucial phase where you know enough to communicate, but you're also aware of the gaps in your knowledge. Your focus should be on expansion. Expand your vocabulary with synonyms and topic specific words. Expand your grammar to include more complex tenses like the present perfect and conditionals. Most importantly, expand your speaking practice. Find opportunities to speak every single day, even if it's just talking to yourself. This is how you will build the bridge to fluency. If you found that you could answer questions easily, speak with detail and nuance, and use natural expressions without much hesitation, then you are likely at an advanced level. You can already communicate effectively and with sophistication. For you, the journey is about refinement. The challenge is to make your English sound even more natural and authentic. You can do this by mastering idioms and phrasal verbs, working on the subtle aspects of pronunciation and intonation, and learning to express complex ideas with more elegance and precision. Pushing yourself to read advanced materials like academic journals or classic literature can be a great way to refine your skills. Regardless of where you found yourself in this test, beginner, intermediate, or advanced, please feel proud of yourself. The act of engaging with this lesson, of trying and practicing, is a victory in itself. It means you are committed to your growth. Remember that learning English is not a race. It is a beautiful, lifelong journey of discovery. To keep moving forward, integrate the methods we use today into your daily life. Describe your day in English before you go to sleep. Tell short stories about your past. Share your plans for the future. Practice shadowing with your favorite English language songs or TV shows. Challenge yourself to answer questions quickly, thinking directly in English. Each of these small habits, compounded over time, will lead to extraordinary results. Before we conclude today's session, I want to leave you with one final crucial thought. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Practicing for 15 minutes every single day is far more effective than studying for 3 hours once a week. A small daily habit will build unstoppable momentum. Fluency is not built in a day, but it is built every day. Believe in your ability to grow, Stay curious and trust the process. Thank you so much for joining me in this comprehensive English level test. I truly hope it has illuminated your path and given you the clarity you were looking for. If you found this lesson helpful, please make sure you stay with us for more daily English practice. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an opportunity to learn, and consider sharing this video with a friend who is also on their English learning journey. You can support and motivate each other to grow even faster. Take a deep breath, smile, and give yourself credit for the wonderful work you've done today. Keep practicing and remember that every word you speak, every sentence you form is a step closer to the fluent English speaker you are destined to become. I'll see you in the next lesson. You in